That's what I was. That's right.
That's even worse, though.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
I'm
think
not
that
saying
that's I don't think that
Not
that's necessarily
necessarily.
what it is. I just don't think that they've had the guidance to show them how they're supposed to move a little bit differently in controlling their emotions. Listen, we used to get stuff out differently. Like we were even trained differently. We were raised differently. We had, you know what I'm saying? We were more physical. We got out more. Like we turned it into more of a. It's kind of, I don't know if y'all ever seen that movie Wally, where they was all just all sitting in a chair or whatever like that. I don't know. It was a Disney movie, right? But I
Yeah.
think that we don't get out the, you know what I'm saying, getting stuff out of our system. We're not as physical and stuff anymore.
Sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah, we don't hoop as much. We don't go outside as young men and stuff like that anymore. And I think that when you start to, we don't know how to actively get out of our system and how to train ourselves to be a lot more controlling of our emotions, you know, for when we become older, because we're not as active, and men need a lot of adrenaline to get out of their body. Like they need that physical activity in order for them to really, really be able to control themselves in a lot of instances. I think that, like, if you take a guy and he get really pissed off, he wants to get physical, but a lot of guys don't even understand their own strength, right? Like that's what the gym is for. That's what hooping is for. We get out that stuff out of us. And so it helps us to control ourselves, I think, in a lot of instances. Whereas nowadays, I think that you see guys that's more into video games, right? They're more into being on social media. They express themselves differently. So where you see the way that they vent and the way that they operate within their lives, I think that is much different than how it used to be in yesteryear, which is why you're seeing a wave of more men operating within their femininity. You know what I'm saying? Like really in real life, it's translating in real life, men being more feminine.
Nails.
It really is.
I wouldn't call it feminine.
Hold on, Dev. What are you putting your head for now, Quentin?
Because you're wrong. Like you told me.
Tell me why I'm
like
wrong.
I think
being an
all are
emotional man, I don't think that has anything to do with like I said, the emotion that men often display is anger. The emotion that women often display is sadness, crying, and kind of stuff.
How have we got the same emotions? Is what I'm saying. Like men that was angry in yesteryear.
Anger typically is a man emotion, not women. Like
correct, but my point is that we channeled it
differently.
We channeled it differently. Is my point. The way that we channeled our emotions, because everybody has emotions, the way that we channeled it in yesteryear is much different than the way we channel it today. How am I off on that?
It all looks it's all anger for men. Like we hit stuff, we play video games, and we shoot stuff.
Y'all start wars.
It's anger. It's still anger. What you mean? That's the whole point.
Y'all are talking about two different points, though.
What I'm saying is the way that we exerted our energy and channeled our energy in the way that we were taught to channel our energy in yesteryear is different than the way we're taught to channel our energy today. Now everybody got to get in touch with their emotions. They have to embrace their feminine side. We have to go and get therapists now. Like it's different the way that guys are trained to channel their energy and their emotions. And it's based off of something that women are telling them versus how we used to get it off in yesteryear.
He's right. He's right. Especially with young boys. Like,
I'm off.
No, he's right. He's right. With young boys, they discourage like rough housing and shit like that. And now, and like,
yes,
what young boys have done all throughout all cultures. They played rough. They've played war. They played with sticks, you know, and, you know, the default is kind of becoming like, oh, you know, you got to raise young boys like women, you know, like how you raise young.
Telling them, listen, it's too dangerous to play outside or it's too cold.
Yeah.
Back then, it was like, yo. We don't even come in till like we had to be made to come in when the street lights came on. We had to check in. It was different the way that we exerted our energy and we were taught to control over our emotions versus the way that it's taught today. Now, if you scrape your knee, is oh my God, make sure you're acknowledging his pain. You know what I'm saying? It's different. It's just different. I don't know why Quentin was shaking his head. My bad, Devin.
Well, I get it, like, because my kid was playing football and he wanted some sleeves so he wouldn't scratch himself up when he fell. I said, nigga, I am not buying you sleeves so you don't scratch yourself up. And my fucking parents lit into my ass about being mean to that baby. I get it.
No, I think overall it's like we all have emotions. We just ultimately express it differently. And I think society has more restrictions on how men will express those emotions through violence and stuff like that. As far as rules, you can't go murder somebody, you can't go assault somebody, and then you'll see women do it through, just character assassination, with their words. So I think that's how it is expressed. But especially when it came to Charleston, I agree to an extent. I just don't think everybody's a monolith. I think there's people who's capable of doing different roles who could possibly be a leader. But at the same time, I think what the issue is within society, we lower standards or we change standards to bring people in instead of keeping the standard. And if that woman achieves that goal or whatever it is in the military, then like that's great. But I think once you start changing those standards of what a leadership is, what it means to be a man and all that stuff, I think that's when it, starts going downhill. And I think a lot of these boys who you're seeing in the streets that are shooting and being violent, they're emotional, but they usually come from single mother households because those mothers can't teach those men how to be men.
It's full circle.
Do you really think it's that modern? Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm getting back to like what Quentin was saying is like with the emotional aspect of it. So it's like the mom would say, "Oh, my baby, come here," but the father would be like, "Let him, let him hurt himself. Like,
Let him toughen up."
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, let him toughen up. Whereas the mom would be like, "Oh, come here and let me."
He coddles him.
Baby.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, men are softer nowadays, and women are more masculine nowadays.
Now,
Do you really think
exactly
that
true.
modern though?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's just the environment. With a single parent household, the mom is not as nurturing, caring. And if she's raising a boy, she doesn't know how to tough love. No, you scrape your knee, don't cry. Don't.
And the other aspect of that with men, the other aspect of that with men is like when men are violent, we understand that somebody can be violent with his back. So if you're not out there being rough, hanging out with the boys, getting into fights, you don't really understand the repercussions of violence. A lot of these people like watching video games, but they've never been in a violent situation. So, and that's another aspect of like when I was in the military, we would have some new recruits come in and they would be like, "Oh, what you want to come in the army and like go shoot stuff and all this other stuff." But then, I remember this one leadership came up and was like, first of all, if you've actually been to war, you don't like war. Like if you've been there, you don't celebrate it. So I think that's another aspect of it is like a lot of people, they're coddled by, in the house, don't get out. They don't understand violence. So they're willing to inflict violence without understanding what violence is as a
But
whole.
even with that, right? Like I was watching a documentary and it was basically saying that they had to set the standards for how it is that they're training people within certain segments of the military or the Navy SEALs or whatever, because people was getting offended.
It's getting bad.
In the military, it used to be like "don't ask, don't tell," but that went away.
No, it's
like people are literally getting offended at whether or not they're getting overly yelled at or whatever within the military. Seriously.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Our military is
it's definitely getting softer.
Little demons out there.
I wonder what basic training looks like in 2024.
Oh, they got their cell phones.
And I want that's a good question.
It's all pussy shit. Yeah.
Because back in the day, they yelled, they tell you to get naked the first night and yelling and screaming and
can't do that now.
Yeah.
Probably
not.
not.
What do you mean when you say back in the day, like your years?
Like I went there in 2003, so
because
back in the day.
So like
20 years ago,
growing up or whatever, you guys never got taught I statements, like you statements, I feel statements. This is nothing. No.
What is the I? What is the
I got yelled at before for saying that. You say I feel, so they have to like. Yeah,
no, it was taught. I remember in the 90s, in the 80s, it was taught. I don't think this is new. Like, oh, everybody's getting so pussified. Everyone's like in their emotions. Like it's been happening since the 60s. I don't know why it's.
I agree, but that was around the time that feminism started to take hold in the first place.
Yeah, no, I think it's just it's like, I think there's always been a continued trajectory in a negative space within the military. Like, you got people coming in, they know the regs now in the military. Like, if you're doing something wrong and like they don't want to get messed up, they'll pull out some paper, read it, and like get you in trouble. You know, and the military is trying to uphold it because, you know, they're just getting, you know, bad press about, you know, soldiers and suicides and stuff like that. You know, it's getting softer. Like, I just know it's not the same anymore, where I was going through my soft selection and then our cadre came up and was like, hey, you know, some of you guys don't belong. So it was like, we created a fight circle and we literally beat the other people that we thought were weak to leave the circle. Like, that wasn't like military wide, but within that, but I just know that doesn't happen anymore because they're coming in just like having to, you know, they lowered the standards. They're putting safeguards to where, you know, you can't really test, you know, lack of better words, their manhood.
Yeah. Similar to like, I don't know if you ever saw A Few Good Men. Remember the movie A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson? Yeah. And, you know, whole code red, like he was weak. So, you know, we wanted to, you know, make him stronger, or, you know, and it ended up going the wrong way. But Jack Nicholson whole thing is, you know, you weaken a country, you know, when you try to, you know, baby the situation somewhat. When he was, you know, I did order the code red, you know, you goddamn right I did. That was my favorite part. I love that.
Yeah, I just think that people trying to ignore who we naturally are, and we trying to condition each other to think something that we not. And I think instead we should be spending more time trying to channel and you know, properly direct that energy instead of trying to subdue people. You know, there's nothing worse than seeing a 6'9" guy super feminine. That is the weirdest shit that I've ever seen in my entire life, bro.
Not the white.
No, seriously, like you see this guy and his head almost hit the top of the thing.
Doing what?
Huh?
What thing is
like, his head is almost
hitting? Oh, okay. That's what you're talking about.
His head is almost hitting the top of the doorway. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, you standing behind him in line, and the person be like, you know, the cashier just so far. Right, so I'm standing in line, right? And this motherfucker is behind me. And, you know, you get your groceries, whatever, you getting the rest of your stuff. And then the person's behind me, and then the cashier says, oh, you know, I like your hair. And he said, oh, okay, girl. You know, it's like,
hey, girl.
Like, what the fuck, man? You too big for this shit. Like, that's honestly, it's weird to me. It's like, yo, what the fuck happened? Like, you want to be a ballerina instead of a football player or something? Like, that's just some weird shit to me, bro. But